But one farmer says, seems to me there was a tea party in Boston that was illegal too.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold.
We shall seek to establish and maintain a dollar which will not change its purchasing and debt-paying power during the succeeding generation.
As anguished shrieks rose up from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Government credit and government currency are really one and the same thing. A reserve of gold and a small reserve of silver.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel for an extemporaneous rambling, another boring installment of you, a look at the news, a slideshow, a discussion. And for those of you who are not regular subscribers here to the program, you know who you are, the lurkers, creepers, stalkers, those who just swing by and chew on their favorite flavored crayon to try to catch this channel in a slip-up somewhere or try to discover a way in which to shut the channel down. I would encourage you to go through the entire video because we have a special broadcast, a special message for you at the end of it. That's absolutely splendid. I think you'll enjoy it very much then, mate. So, stick around for that. All right, tough guy, rubberneck. Anyways, gold COMEX up 31.80. Yeah, it got beat below 1600. But I mean, did that really surprise anybody? With all the margin calls getting called in, we've talked about this. We know why gold and silver sell off during these tumultuous events that take place with the stock market. I mean, come on now, $5 trillion was wiped off the books globally. We're going to look at that. We're going to talk about it. But gold's really bouncing back. I mean, the stock market even opened up. If you looked at the futures last night, it was up like 200, 250 points. The Dow is up a little bit. I'm not going to show a slide for that because I really don't care about a 200-point Dow rise after it fell in the multitude of thousands of points. It's a blip. It's trading flat. I don't care about it. But we got gold really making a return here. It's going to be above 1,600 in no time. 1598.50. Again, this is much higher than where we thought we would even be this year. It's already up in the green. It's still green for the year. The returns on gold, it's holding its value. You guys know the story behind that. Again, not investment at all. It's just a hedge. But even in that, it's doing very, very well. Silver, on the other hand, its little crippled brother on crutches, not doing so good. As you are aware, silver took quite the beating the other day. It got punched far below 18, and then it fell even below 17, falling significantly. Just a very steep nosedive, extremely volatile chart, a lot of volume on it, and it was down, in the 16 range. It's sitting at 16.68 now after recovering about 22 cents, 1.36% today. I would expect that it will make the recovery and achieve the levels that we saw earlier in that 18 range. It's going to take some work to get there. But again, this is what I've told you in the past. Silver just, I know I said that palladium scares the hell out of me. That's just because of what that market involves, that it's 97% exposure to the automotive makers and demand for auto vehicles and things like that. Silver scares me on a whole other front because of its just extreme volatility and what it does. It's a difficult metal, It seems like oftentimes in the past, whenever I bought silver at the greater than 15 range, it just fell below it at some point. And a lot of times I'd end up underwater with silver. I don't know if right now some of the silver I have, how much of it I'm actually underwater on. I don't believe I've made any significant. I haven't made a big silver purchase or even acquired much silver at all in the last, I don't know, probably a year or 2 years even. 2 years, 3 maybe. I'm trying to think of the last silver I bought. The last silver I most likely bought was a numismatic. It was probably a British crown from the early 19th century. For historical and conversation purposes only. So that would be the last silver that I remember or recall acquiring. But wait, I did receive two. I got, when the last Junius Maltby rounds were struck by the mint there before they went out, QSB, I did receive, I believe, 2 or 3 of the last Maltby rounds ever struck, and that was the final minting. The dies and everything were sent to me, and we ceased production on the coin. So yes, I did receive those. That would be the only and last silver that this channel has acquired. We'll have to keep waiting, be patient, keep a look on silver here, and we'll see if it punches above 18 again soon. Okay, this is all over the news last couple of days. It's been talked about, discussed, it's repeated all over CNBC, any financial outlet you look at, online, on the cable networks, you name it. The Fed rate cut coming. It's being predicted. It's being priced into the market already. I believe that's why the Dow is even in the green today. Everyone's depending upon the Fed to fight off this virus. Well, the worst thing about the virus is they are the virus. They're a financial virus. The Fed cannot stave off the inevitable. The bailout bubble has been blown. All right, it's inflated. It's there. Now, whether or not the coronavirus... Oh, shit, I said it. Okay. Pause. We can't say that word. They'll flag the video. Okay. We'll see. We'll do a test. Well, the current situation, whether or not that's the pin that pops the bailout bubble, is yet to be seen. I mean, it looked like that last week with the extreme contraction we saw and greater than 10-13% correction in the markets. I was watching some Peter Schiff statements the other day, and he's pretty much on point with what's going on, I think, as far as the direction of the markets. The Fed can't do anything. Again, they're, I believe, incapable of resurrecting what has already gone wrong when you look at the fundamentals, when you look at the numbers. Now, they're going to keep trying to stave it off and kicking that can down the road. So if the Fed does this half-point rate cut in March, it will, cause gold to most likely rise. I believe markets will rise also, but it's just going to do the same old thing. More speculation in the markets and the equities, easy free money for everyone, and they're just going to gamble with it. And we'll see the continued consequences of such behavior in the market, and that'll just make the next contraction, the next drop, that much more precipitous, and the consequences of such that much worse. Of course, gold will react in some fashion to a Fed rate cut. Now, oftentimes, yes, gold reacts in a bullish fashion, and it will rise in value, pricing in an increase in the money supply, and of course, the Fed just continuing to devalue its native currency. I think gold, again, when we look at all of the numbers, all the facts, even the opinion of respectable major financial outlets and institutions, large funds, all of them and everyone is bullish on it. And we've already discussed the 2,000 mark for this year being an accepted idea and number. It could, I think, go beyond that, because I think that's a major psychological marker. Once it hits that, you're going to see that FOMO activity that we tend to talk about. But the price forecast for gold, of course, some people talk about this current situation, causing some speculation and panic that driving the price. However, I think a lot of it has to do with what's taking place in the markets, but also the anticipation of the Fed activities. Now, it always helps to put things into perspective, and sometimes we beat a dead horse when we do it, but there are certain facts that we like to cover on this channel and discuss frequently. It's a good reminder, puts things into perspective, and it creates, I think, a model, a visual model, or a way of, looking at things from a different angle. And when you look at what happened in the markets last week, when we talk about these point drops, a lot of people are like, oh, it dropped 1,000 points. Well, they don't really understand, the valuation of that, typically of, a point representing like $1 billion or something. So it's not just points. It's not just price sell-offs with certain equities and things. It represents real money. And real money goes in different directions and places. It doesn't vanish, doesn't disappear. It just kind of moves from one location to another, from one book to another book. Now, when they say that the coronavirus, oh God, I said it again. Dang it, this video is going to get delisted. If you're familiar with what's going on online, they're really policing the language and blocking certain terms. And that's coming to us from multiple sources. You can check that out. But anyways, coronavirus wiped off $5 trillion off the stocks, right? So you see the $5 trillion mentioned repeatedly in the news. Some places are even talking about it as being high as $6 trillion wiped off the books. So let's go with that. If it was $5.5 trillion, it's $6 trillion. I mean, it's quite a bit, right? Quite a lot of money. Well, to put that into perspective, and it's difficult because the price of gold changes, and so when you look at the total supply of gold, all gold ever mined since the beginning of time, and, a lot of it being vaulted, central banks hoarding their bars, you can come up with a value of what the World Gold Council estimates as being the total value of all above ground gold ever mined. Now, depending on the price of gold, it fluctuates. I've seen it around estimated at 4 to 5 trillion. That's the last time I really took note of it, but that was several years ago. So I checked in on it again this morning, and they believe that number has shifted to around 7 trillion. So let's take a look at it. Now, I think this number is a little exaggerated, a little higher. They're estimating the total value at 7.5 trillion, around that neighborhood, for the total value of all above ground gold ever mined since the beginning of time. All physical, 7.5. So we'll go with that number. Let's go with it for the sake of the discussion right now. So the total value of all gold ever mined since the beginning of time, the ultimate settlement, the extinguisher of debt, gold. And then you look at what sold off, what was wiped off the books essentially in the markets last week. That's 6 trillion. It's interesting to see that 80%, yep, think of this for a moment, put this into perspective now, 80% of all the gold ever mined since the beginning of time was wiped off the books. That's how much wealth was transferred and shifted. And it gives you an idea how fake and propped up and inflated this marketplace truly is, and what the true value of gold actually should be. That's just looking at what took place in a 5-day trading span around the world in the markets. 80% of the gold wiped off the books. Some people, they'll try to come up with side arguments and justify that and say why that's absolutely acceptable and necessary. I don't buy it. We're looking at quadrillion-dollar markets now when you include the derivative markets and such. Hundreds of trillions of debt with nations in the States. And we're going to look at that. Let's take a look at the debts. We're going to include that into this discussion because I think it's very important to look at the total value that they place upon gold and how its role, how it is vaulted by central banks, how the wealthy elite are vaulting it and physically more than ever before, avoiding the paper and actually taking possession of serialized and ownership of the metal itself. And I think there's a reason for that, which we've discussed. We've gone through that time and time again here. But let's take a look at the debt now. I don't always check in on this. I don't like to because it's just, at this point, the numbers don't really mean anything. It could just say in big, bold red letters, impossible. They don't need to write 23.396 trillion. They could just say impossible because we know it's never going to be addressed. It's never, ever going to be paid off. It is impossible. You know the numbers here. Okay, you're not dumb. At least I don't think you are, unless you're one of the stalkers and the lurkers and creepers that's not part of the regular program. If you're just here chewing on a crayon and trying to find something on the channel, you might be a little Cro-Magnon, if you will, a little bit of intellectual inferiority. However, for the normal viewer, 23,396,957,430,419, that number, you have an idea of what that represents, what it means. We've looked at it from the visual capitalist perspective on what does $23 trillion actually look like? What does the interest on that look like? Well, we know that it's impossible. absolutely impossible. There's going to become a time where the piper has to be paid, where things are going to be restructured, where there's going to be a reset, a revaluation, if you will, of currencies. There's either going to be inflation, hyperinflation, drastic draconian measures in order to do something about this, because there are rules to economics which have to be obeyed, much like gravity. If you go to a cliff and you jump off and you wrote on a piece of paper, "I hereby declare myself legally able to fly," and that's not going to do anything for you. Okay, you're going to fall, and the rules of gravity are going to apply to you regardless of what you scribbled on a document and signed. It's going to pull you down. Now, the rules for economics are similar to gravity. They exist, they're irrefutable, and they will act upon an economy regardless of who's in charge, what altruistic motives they have, how much pomp and circumstance they show, and the little shows they put on, the State of the Unions, what kind of earrings and makeup Nancy Pelosi decides to put on that day, whatever Mnuchin wants to do, the Treasury, the Fed, all of these people, they can have their marble statues in their buildings and their columns, their symbols. It's not going to do anything. The debt's the debt. Supply and demand curves intersect and dictate price. I mean, economics, as we've always discussed, is very simple. They like to overcomplicate it, but these numbers exist, and they are impossible. A lot of people don't get it. They don't know the consequences. They don't realize that there's 3,000 dead fiat currencies expired in the graveyard of history. They don't realize that that's where the dollar will end up and will go. They don't realize that hyperinflation will act upon them at some point, that they will lose their wealth, that their pensions, their social security, their fixed incomes, their costs of living, all of those things, all of those factors, the prices of goods and services and commodities, fuel, oil, milk, bread, meat, wheat, all of it, the relationship of work and labor, trade and commerce, the marketplace, all of it tied together in a very complex web of relationships will be affected by this number, the big red number of impossible. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. Again, let's do the math. 23.396 trillion divided by 7.5 trillion. So the entire U.S. national debt. Now, this isn't the total obligation. This is just the national debt divided by all of the gold ever mined since the beginning of time is 3.119. So over 3 times the United States owes. Over 3 times. If you take the entire obligations of the U.S. government, it's much more than that. It's 5, 6, 7, 8 times the total amount of gold ever mined since the beginning of time. So do you think there's a chance that any nation could ever possess and own and have enough wealth and production to obtain every single ounce, half ounce, tenth, or gram, every nugget of every piece of the 7,000-year-old currency that humans have valued and transacted with since the beginning of time, since the book of Genesis? Do you think the United States would have the ability to obtain all of that and extinguish all of their debt? No, of course not. We all know the answer is no. It's impossible. Just like the big red number, it is impossible. So there will come a time where this is a reality. That reality will have to set in. It's just a matter of time. Now, it's not just the United States. It's a global thing. It's a global problem, a global issue. This is just a look at some. It's a much longer list than this, but this is US, China, Japan, Germany, the UK, France, India, Italy, Brazil, Canada, Argentina, Australia. Just a look at all of their national debts. And as you can see, because the United States, being the global policeman that it is, spending a majority of its GDP on defense spending to create an umbrella of defense for other nations that enjoy our ability to do so for them. Of course, we have the benefit of being the world reserve currency, so we kind of control the entire currency world in a way with force and coercion. And that's okay, because that's what we do. That's what everyone, I mean, you can't blame us when they allow us to do it, right? I mean, everyone else just kind of turned to the U.S. and said, yeah, you have the world reserve currency, you can do it, Bretton Woods. But then it broke down, and then we just started printing our own paper at will, and it's creating an issue. But there you go. You can see just the entire amount of just the global debt. If you start looking at the U.S., all of its obligations and outstanding liabilities, and then you include all of that of the world, you start to really get an idea that the fiat empire, all of these currencies that are floating against one another on the international stage, it's no wonder that not only is metal being propped up and looked at as a safe haven, but there's no wonder that the crypto world is surviving and doing what it's doing. People don't want to hold fiat, and they'll hold anything. They'll hold a computer code rather than diseased paper. And so that'll continue to grow. It'll continue to occur. And we're looking forward to, of course, that day where the realization does take place. And hopefully metals find their place on the competing stage of currencies here in the world. And real quick, before we close out with our final closing message, Royal Canadian Mint is going to produce its largest coin for sale to buyers, the $100,000 coin, 10 kilograms of 99.9999%. This is like 5.9 gold, 10 kilogram gold coin. It's going to be astonishing. It's going to be heavy, big, and very few individuals are going to be able to purchase it. It's for very luxurious customers, according to the article. I'd be interested to see who orders these, where they end up. But not a very large striking population, very, very limited, only 10 coins. I can tell you one thing. The people that buy these, the individuals that have the wealth to put forward enough for a 10 kilogram gold maple leaf, they're on point. They did something. They know something. And you're not going to see many individuals that buy these on the news, discussing it, reporting it. You'll never know who they are. These are people that are not only awake to what's likely happening, because in order to put forward the kind of wealth necessary to buy a 10 kilogram coin, and it's not very big. You ever seen one of these? What it looks like if you were to hold it? It's not big at all. Quite small, actually. I mean, it's not as big as a garbage can lid like you would imagine in your head. 10 kilograms, 22 pounds or so of gold is not a lot. Not a lot at all. It's actually less gold than is in a London good delivery bar. This coin holds approximately 321.507 troy ounces. That's 10 kilograms converted to troy ounces. So 321.5 troy ounces. Now, if you just take, for the easy math, $1,600 gold, that's what we're fluctuating around today, a couple dollars off, but at just $1,600 per ounce, that puts these coins at a bullion, just a raw bullion spot price value of $514,000. So $500,000 for this coin in just gold. Now, I'm sure the seigniorage charge, the scarcity charge, and what goes into that, the production and distribution and everything, just being that there's so limited number of them, there's going to be a much higher premium on that. But you're looking at $500,000 in gold, $514,000 for a single gold coin. Quite a lot of wealth, and I'm sure the individuals that purchase these are sitting on not only these, but some other bullion as well. But this would definitely make a fine piece for any collection to put on display in one's vault. If anyone had a private vault with such displays, I'm sure it would be a nice little feature at the end of the room that you could show your visitors when perusing your metal stack. All right, thanks for tuning in to the Junius Maltby channel. If you are one of the stalkers and creepers, stick around for the end. We have a special message for you. We're going to take a moment out of this program's time to welcome the lurkers, stalkers, and those that like to peruse the channel for no other reason than to take a crayon, take notes, and try to find something that they can get this channel on. And it's actually hilarious because they're here giving us the views that we enjoy and like to have and what keep this channel alive. But the reason they're here, ladies and gentlemen, is because they tend to be offended by the channel, and so then they therefore search for ways to either get the channel shut down or come back on this anonymous voice that is known as Junius Maltby. And let them do so. They can do their autistic screeching. They can run to their higher-ups or to whoever they wish to and try to find fault with the freedom of speech and with the existence of such a platform as this. Of course, times are changing, and of course, adaptation to change is difficult for some, especially those that are entrenched in archaic and medieval mindsets, or people that believe other individuals don't have a right to espouse opinions or hold unique beliefs that are different from their own. And the most interesting part about it is people that pretend to be brazen or brave or hardy, and yet seem to take such insult with any discussion that's outside of their normal conversation, and something that might challenge their worldview or their mindset. And so they take insult to the discussions that they overhear, and no one forces them to be here. They come at their own fruition. And as I said, it's good that they do, because they give us view counts, they help this channel out, and in a way they support it. So we thank them for that. And let them continue their autistic screeching. Let them continue their self-harm, self-hurt that they seem to take on their own. It's like self-flagellation, if you will. Again, they don't have to be here, and yet they are. All of us have endured insults in the past, overheard people say things about our particular situation or circumstance or our station in life that might not be in agreement with our beliefs, what makes us up. And that's not something that you can really take to the bank in cash. No one really cares if someone says something that challenges you or is not in line with your outlook. And so, if you are offended by Junius Maltby videos, with the platform here, with the beliefs held here, the discussions held here, I would encourage you to go elsewhere. And you're not going to get anything on us. You're not going to do anything. You have no rights. You have no recourse. You are no more than an impotent and inept toddler throwing a tantrum. You can jump up and down. You can ball your fists. You can turn red in the face. You can alienate, exclude, and ostracize. You can do whatever you want. But ultimately, no one really cares. No one really cares. Because at the end of the day, you are forgotten. And this channel is not. At the end of the day, your name is not known. And this channel's name is known. So I'd say go your separate ways before you make a decision and commit an act that you might regret. Because the recourse for such a decision could be detrimental. For there are two things to consider. Not only the news, and how we would exhaust all efforts with the media and friends in the media to expose the perpetrations of those who have attempted to assault this channel. But I already have some of the most wealthy individuals you can possibly imagine vowing support for any legal defense or any legal efforts put forward by this channel. And you're talking about people that have more money than the entire institutions standing behind those who are represented by the stalkers and creepers and lurkers of this channel. You're talking about an individual that has tens of millions of dollars, teams of lawyers, who's actually chomping at the bit to get involved with any situation that would involve a threat to this channel's existence or survival, or myself. So if you'd like to go toe-to-toe with him, just remember you're not going to toe-to-toe with me. No, I don't have the money for that type of illegal warfare, believe me. He does. And for him, it's almost like entertainment. It's fun. He just deploys an army of legal counsel and representatives, and he just writes the checks to him, and we'll tie this up in court and throw and hurl all kinds of litigations your way. And if you want to do that, hey, let's go. It'd be fun, I think, for everybody involved. It'd be entertainment. We could get the media involved. And once the media got involved, I think that would actually be really good for me. It would be really good. It would give the channel kind of an international broadcast platform for subscriptions. And I'd like to see the subscription number go from 25,000 where it is now. Of course, I'd harness the assistance and help of all the dedicated subscribers of the channel that are here already, the ones that have been here for years. And we would send out the broadcast message. And once we could get the channel to, 100,000, 200,000, even 1 million subscribers, I think we could really make some bigger sweeping changes. So any publicity that could be offered in that regard, we would harness it, and it would definitely slingshot this channel to be a much larger platform than it already is. So those of you who continue to make attempts to undermine this channel's existence, just remember, I've got bigger supporters than you do, and you're a nobody. You're a never has been, and nobody knows or cares anything about you. Okay? So thanks. Have a good day.